Everybody, welcome to the Octavia Butler mixtape course. I'm Dr. Brianna Whiteside, and today we are discussing a few of Butler's short stories. Let me know if y'all can hear me as you come on. Let me know if y'all can see me. It's good to be back, y'all. I know that a few people missed class the week before, and it was my bad. I made the wrong announcement, so that was on me. So sorry to the people who missed it, who were not able to join the week before. But we're here. We are discussing three short stories: near of kin, speech sounds, and crossover. If y'all want to come on up, y'all know what to do. Hit the two people at the bottom of the screen, and I'll bring y'all right on up. Do have some announcements. Two announcements. First off, I am going to have to move. I'm going to have to end this class 30 minutes early today. So we're going to end at 7 today instead of 7:30. Second thing I want, because I know I was supposed to let you all know if we were going to, continue on or how we were going to continue on. I'm not going to be able to continue on. So I think once we finish, I'm pretty sure once we finish the rest of the short stories and essays in this book, that's gonna be it. That's gonna be it for us, y'all. My life is going in different directions, and I cannot, commit to doing this more than what I had already committed to. And so I just wanted to let y'all know that. So maybe y'all can start your own book club or whatever the case may be, but I won't be able to hold that commitment anymore. But I will send an email on the Substack if I can somehow circle back and we can get it started up. Just for the next few months, I think things are going to look different, and I don't want to leave y'all hanging. So I want to do that. Also, with that announcement, if y'all are on the paid Substack side, go ahead and cancel your subscriptions. I don't want you to keep paying for something and I'm not posting about it. So I do want to just be integral and honorable, and letting you all know I'm probably not going to be posting much after we finish this. So if you are on the paid side, y'all know what I'm saying. But yeah, thank y'all for rocking with me. This has been great, and we're going to go ahead and hop in since we don't have a lot of time today. I'm just trying to pull up the Substack. Hey, Tina.
Hey, I'm sorry I missed last week. I had a doctor's appointment and I wasn't feeling good and I ended up sleeping. So I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, look, no
I
problem.
woke up, I was so mad at my husband when I woke up. I'm like, I had class tonight.
Not you know
Why did you
I
wake me up?
Well, we wasn't on last week. You mean the week before?
Yeah, the week before.
Okay, yeah. Not you know I had class.
Yeah, I was so mad.
Oh, that's so funny. And I know, and I made the wrong announcement. The class when we finished fledgling, I think I had said that we were breaking on a certain week that we weren't. So last week or the week before last, we were like, "Oh, I thought I didn't read." And I'm like, "Yeah, it was me. I said that." But it's okay. We're here now. We are here now. Hey, Ash.
What up? I'm a little confused because the week before last I thought we was taking a break, so I just read the three stories that you just posted about, but not the ones that we were supposed to read first. Which ones are we discussing today?
So you read the week before last we read The Evening and the Morning and the Night and Bloodchild. Today we're discussing Near of Kin, Speech Sounds, and Crossover.
Okay, cool. Then I'm caught up.
Yeah.
Okay. And is this the last class?
Next week.
Next week. Okay.
Oh, I do need to say that, guys. Hold on, Yash, 1 second. I do need to say that we're going to just condense the next 2 weeks. So next week, we're just going to read the 2 essays and then Amnesty and the Book of Marketing. We're just going to have it all next week. So instead of having 2 more weeks, next week will be the week we end. You had something, Yash? What were you going to say? I cut you off.
I guess, like, as far as the text go, or as far as Octavia Butler goes, I can't understand why she's writing about every other theme that she continues to write about except for the incest. what is this lady's obsession with incest? And also, like, does she know that like people that do incest are actually more susceptible to like inbred diseases? Like, did she know that, or did she like that? I just can't. I can't. Like, I read speech sounds and I was like, okay, and then I read crossover and I was like, woof. But then when I got to next to kin, I was just like, why? Why? So enlighten me.
I wish I had an answer. I think that in the afterwards she starts talking about what made her interested. She wants to do what she wants to explore sympathetic incest. I don't even know how that could be a thing. And the only times we really think about incest is, well, not only time, but historically is in aristocracies. But I don't know her interest in these types of deviant relationships. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a lot of research from her archive on her short stories, because I was more so focused on the novels, and that was a lot. So I don't know why she's going the route she was going, but I'm also looking at, let me see when she published Near of Kin, 79. So in 79, we read Kindred. She also published Kindred. And then in 77, she had published Mind of My Mind. And then 80, we have Wild Seed. So we kind of see some ancestral relationships. I remember in Wild Seed, we have that scene. And even in Kindred, right at the end of the novel, when Rufus is trying to advance or make advances towards Dana, like we have those hints of those things. But I don't know why Butler is writing about it, other than repressed sexuality, and trying to express it in different ways, or trying to explore it in different ways. But I can't defend her on that.
So one of the things I was thinking about was that in the late 70s and early 80s, it was a big time for incest in literature. It was a big time, because like that book with V.C. Andrews, Flowers in the Attic. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Flowers in the Attic
I know that book.
was the book that everybody was reading.
Okay.
And it's like 78, 79, something like that. I remember being in high school and reading this book. Beginning of high school or whatever else. Everybody was reading this book. And it was all about incest, basically. It was written in a way that it was sympathetic. When you talk about it, so like it was a when you talk about it, so like it was a woman who had these children, and all of her children had to live in the attic, and because the man that she was trying to be with was didn't know she had kids, and she kept it secret, and it's a lot. It's when I tell you some craziness, it's some craziness. So that was a big thing. And then I think some of the Donald Goines and Iceberg Slim books that were out during that time kind of like talked a little bit about that too. So there was this like taboo, not taboo, about incest that was happening.
Okay.
In literature and popular fiction or whatever else. So maybe when she wrote Next to Kin specifically, when I was reading, I was like, damn, this it's kind of like not the exact, but it's kind of like that.
Okay. I think, first of all, Diana's talking about she read it in the 6th grade, and I think that's insane to read something with that type of content in the 6th grade, but she also says the 80s were crazy. So thank you for providing that context. And I do remember in the afterword, I just had to glance back at the afterword of Near of Kin, and she says, some of this, her interest, her Baptist interest, right? She was a Baptist child, and her interest in Bible stories led her to kind of start to write this, now that I'm remembering. And then she says that her examples from the Bible about this type of content or on this subject were Lot's daughters, which I can tell y'all the story if y'all don't know the story of what happened, Abraham's sister wife, and the sons of Adam with the daughters of Eve. So she is still pulling and trying to work through some of those that religious trauma that she has. But she did say that, you know, she was interested in it. Religion led her here. Now these are the things we don't like to talk about, or we don't necessarily see a lot of people talk about in religious circles. But Butler is talking about it. Now, it is uncomfortable, though, to continue reading it, especially since we've just gone through her entire canon and to continue seeing her play with these types of sexual relationships and all the other things. I'm with you, Yash, 100%. But I also just think, to what Tina said, yes, but also she's not able to express herself sexually, and she is exploring every aspect of it.
And I can understand that, but also considering the fact that she didn't even have siblings is like
Yeah.
creeping me out. Like, because I'm like, okay, lady, do you think in theory if you had a brother you would be attracted to him? Like, what it's it like I said, the other themes, while they're tough, I can understand them. The incest thing is like,
But I'm also wondering, Yash, though, like, I don't know, sometimes when you're hearing these, maybe not brother, sister, but cousins, kissing cousins, people who, you know, and I've seen this a lot happen, where you playing house with your cousins, and all those other things. So this kind of like having remnants of this incestual relationship. However, they haven't, from what I understand, it's not going all the way in that way, but we do know that sometimes they do go all the way.
it, it's like a lot of the stuff that is really offensive and really kind of out there in the 70s and 80s. That was not the case.
Yeah. You mean it wasn't out there? It wasn't considered out
It was there, but people did not like your response to this is not the response you got. It was like, now I'm not going to say accepted, but it just wasn't.
there? Yeah.
I don't know how to
I mean,
express
you
it.
talking about
It
hippie
wasn't like,
culture?
I mean, when I think about like the way my mom, like the stuff that my mom did when we were children, and the freedom we had growing up, you know, it would shock if my daughter did that to my grandbabies. I'd be ready to stab her. Like, you know, like you're not gonna do this to my child, to my babies. But at the time, it just seemed normal.
Normal.
So having being in sixth grade or in freshman in high school and reading about incest, that's what we did. I don't know how else to explain it to you. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like nobody was putting you on punishment. Nobody was like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that or whatever else. It just the over sexualization of young girls was wrong, and and like that should be accepted. Like it was normalized. Like there wasn't a like, do you think she's dressing too old?
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a like, do you think she's dressing too old?
Yeah, and so basically, what I'm hearing you saying is like, contemporarily we are dealing with the adultification of girls and girls being fast and all these other things. But and Diana said it in the chat, like, but it was glamorized back then, right?
Yes.
It wasn't critiqued. It wasn't an issue. This was the culture.
Right. You didn't like you think about like even talking about like you said the ad like Brooke Shields ad back in the day. Oh my God! It was like if I look at that now, I'm like that was like porn. Like what the hell? Like you don't think about it, or
Yeah.
the fact that there were like it was no big deal that some girl was 17 years old marrying a 40-something-year-old man. Like it was not. It was normalized. It was not a big deal. So there's a lot like the way you think about things just didn't kind of do that. Oh, that really wasn't her cousin. That was like her cousin once removed or something. I mean, like it was just all normalized.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't something that you just I don't know how to explain it. Like so just like I said, a lot of stuff that was done, it just I don't know, like when she talked about like even when she was talking about like the fact that she was so angry with her mother never really wanted her, and all of this kind of stuff, but she still even in the novel, but she still liked her uncle. So if you know that that's your uncle and he's also your father, because he's your uncle father. At this point, she wasn't mad at him, but she was mad at her mother.
But you know what? I think that's so fascinating, because I've seen that happen all the time. Like you're generally mad at the parent who stays, right? And the other one who's not around gets the most grace, because in the child's mind, they're the better parent, though they're not active. But you love going over daddy's house. You love doing all this stuff with the part-time parent as opposed to the parent who may have stayed. Now, her mother didn't stay in this. So, of course, yes, Diana, romanticized. So, of course, she is critiquing her mother for pawning her off on everyone else. But I'm also interested now that we're getting into this conversation that, in some way, I think Butler is trying to hold space for the mother's trauma of being impregnated by her older brother, right? And how women historically have been silenced about these things, shamed about these things, the things that happened to them or that may have participated in adolescence. But I do see Butler kind of holding that space, when the uncle tells her why the mother may have not been as present and active in her life. But to your point, Tina, it is the romanticization of the uncle, right? And I
I
think
just
that.
I,
Go
I
ahead.
just want to say, um I'm gonna say my last piece on incest, and then we can move on.
Okay.
It's just like I mean, I didn't read Flowers in the Attic, but I saw the movie, so I understand that story, and I can even understand like why there would be an extent of incest in the Bible if there wasn't that many people. But Butler isn't writing in that context. She's writing in the context of like there's a world full of people, but you still choose your sibling. Like I think that that's weird. And the other thing is, in response to like your kissing cousins statement, in all of Butler's texts is, well, not in all of them. I can't remember all of them very clearly right now, but in a lot of them, it wasn't like, oh, you're doing something with a cousin or someone that's twice removed or this or that or they're distant. It's like, no, you're blatantly wanting to hook up with your direct sibling,
Sure.
not like, oh, we're playing house or whatever. Even in exogenesis, the way that the couples are set up, like the alien couples are set up with two siblings. So and then the other thing that I wanted to add it to is that even though like the 80s were wild and people were writing about it and all of that, she's still writing it in the context like this isn't acceptable, this isn't normalized. So
Yeah, but
yeah,
I'm
it's
wondering. Go ahead, Yash. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, so like it's very interesting that she keeps writing about it, because even in her writing, like she's pointing out that like this is kind of shameful. The only story that I could remember, well, the only two stories that I could remember where it wasn't shameful was for the aliens, because that was their DNA, and for Doro. But even Doro had to convince Anyanwu that it wasn't shameful. But in every other story that she wrote it in, it was a shameful act. So I'm a little weirded out as to why she keeps writing about it, but we can move on. We can talk about the grief, because there was a lot of grief in these stories that I recognized too. I just had to get that off my heart.
No, I think it's fair. I think that, I feel, I mean, when I read Near Kin, which, it is what it is, I was also thinking about proximity. I was thinking about proximity. Who are you closest to when you do become sexually aware? How do you do we don't really know about the family's background. We don't know if they grew up in the country or if these were the only two, they only had access to one another. There's so much background that we don't know and don't understand, and so we're left to kind of draw our own conclusions based off of the information that we have. And I think that that's the point here, right? You're able to I think Butler is trying to show us you're about to make a judgment call. Now, I'm not saying it's morally right. I think it's wrong. I think it shouldn't happen. But you're going to make a judgment call based on what you don't know or based on all the limited information. Now, is this right? So that is why, and afterwards, she's talking about sympathetic incest. I we would need more information, I think, to understand their mindset, but we do know that there's shame. We do know that there's silence going on. We know that and we could talk about family secrets, right? How that they lead to generational trauma. We could talk about all of these things that really do happen in families. So it may not be. I'm with you, Yash, on the incest for sure. I just think that I think it's a complicated thing to think about based on the information that we've been given. But also, I'm wondering if you're drawing these conclusions, or if we all are, based on everything we've read. We're at the end of her canon, so based on the totality of her works, are we frustrated with how she's treating sexuality, romance, relationships? What y'all think?
I'm definitely frustrated with how she treats romance.
Okay.
Be, because with her female protagonists in particular, they're always in some kind of distress, and they see the man as a way, as a not necessarily a meal ticket, well, some to a certain extent, like a meal ticket. Like,
Mm-hmm,
even if we go all the way back to Kindred, the only
mm-hmm,
reason why Damon was with that white man is because he had a better position in the company that they worked in, and he had an apartment that she could move into. And they were both, I mean, now granted, they were both writers, and she was attracted to him, but all of her female protagonists use, I feel like they don't, like, her idea of love in the stories is off of like, can I use you, can we survive together? And I guess, like, love kind of is that to a certain extent, but we're we're put in like these super crazy situations in her books that it makes me feel like none of it is love, and it's all just disingenuine, and we're just trying to use each other to get by. That's kind of how I felt about the cop man and Rye in Speech Sounds. Like, Rye was on her way somewhere else, and then this cop man just came and swooped her. And then and so, like, I don't know, like, I feel like I'm back reading Wild Seed again. Like, you were fine on your own, and then this man just came and changed the course of your life. So I don't know. I don't know. Somebody else could chime in. It's just, we've spent so long in her head,
mm-hmm,
and the reoccurring themes are so strong. I just don't even know what to say anymore.
mm-hmm. Let me read this part, and then Tina, if you want to add in, or anyone in the chat want to add in, because I see some people saying love is more transactional. Maybe she's looking for a man with the cart. Maybe she is. I totally understand where you're going with this, yes. And I think she puts her characters in these extreme circumstances to show humanity, right? I think sometimes a lot of people romanticize relationships, heterosexual relationships, or even just partnerships. There's a lot of romanticization that goes along with it, and then she's snatching us into a reality that we're uncomfortable with, but it's uncanny, right? It's familiar yet unfamiliar. It could happen in a lot of ways, the things that we're most uncomfortable with. So we want to look away, but we can't really, and it makes us, I don't want to keep saying uncomfortable, but it makes us deal with the parts of the human experience that we don't really want to talk about, or we want to suppress. And I'm also thinking about, I think incest is very prevalent in rural areas. Not saying it's not in cities, but I have read a lot of text and seen a lot of movies where these people are generally cousins, third, fourth, fifth cousins, or whatever. And they only have access to this line, this lineage. And so they're procreating in this way. And it's not in the way that the aristocrats would do it. It's just in this way of, hey, this is all I got. I want to engage in this act. And it may be wrong, but then also, is morality subjective?
So what I was going to say is that I think that it's interesting that when she justified on why she talked about why she wrote about it, she used the Bible as an example. That's the justification of what the incest is, and that is, I think that a couple of things this is just my theory, and I could be completely wrong, is that she was somehow trying to deconstruct her belief system at the same time she's reading or writing about or experiencing the world or what's going on. I keep going back to the fact that stuff was so different, in terms of the way that you think about stuff, and the way that stuff is perceived now and the way it was then, and that has a big impact on how she wrote and what she wrote. There was a article or something I saw, I can't remember, TikTok or something, where a woman was saying she thought the movie Waiting to Exhale was horrible because it was just about four women who were just desperate and just desperately wanted a man. Like, she was like, they were very centered around men and everything else. And I wrote back and I said, it's interesting because for me, I think about those four women basically getting to freedom. Now, the process, when you've been raised, the only way you're gonna make it, not just raised, but the laws of the land, everything are saying you can't get can you imagine not being able to get a mortgage by yourself, not being able to have a bank account yourself, not being able, like, if you got pregnant, not being able even to work, they would shun you all. I mean, just all, and I'm saying everywhere. This was not in just small towns, this was everywhere. So culturally, you were not going to make it if you didn't have a man. Betty Rice said it's better to have a piece of a man than not to have a man at all.
Hey, Barbara,
that's crazy to me. That is absolutely crazy to me. So when you talk about this, like with this particular thing, this one, and even the next one, the speech one, in my head, I'm like, she's looking at a woman of the time or a woman who you can relate to, who may be thinking, okay, it's better for me to have a man around, a man for me, or this may give me more strength or more benefits or whatever else, because I'm sorry, that's how it was.
Yeah. Lactose intolerance says she grew up in Altadena and definitely not rural, right? But I think my point was talking about rural America was that she also was a researcher, right?
Yes.
And I'm certain she came across these texts, these films, all of this stuff that kind of informs her writing and her worldview. Also, we know that she was a sheltered child. She was the only child. She was sheltered. And so what happens with only children who are sheltered and things of that nature, right? They have access to different things, but also they are suppressed in childhood. And so Butler's researching, she's playing out these fantasies. She's deconstructing her faith from the Christian, from the Judeo-Christian belief, the Baptist, more specifically, the Baptist belief system. And she's looking at these stories in the Bible, which we don't really talk about. And I think she says, let me see. She says, as a good Baptist kid, I read the Bible first as a series of instructions as to how I should believe and behave, then as bits of verse that I was required to memorize, then as a series of interesting interconnected stories. The stories that got me were stories of conflict, betrayal, torture, murder, exile, and incest. I read them avidly. This was, of course, not exactly what my mother had in mind when she encouraged me to read the Bible. Nevertheless, I found these things fascinating, and when I began writing, I explored these things in my own stories. Near of kin is one of the odder results of this interest. I remember trying to write it when I was in college and failing. The idea stayed with me, demanding to be written, a sympathetic story of incest. And that's when she goes on to say who her examples from the Bible were, which was Lot's daughters, who went ahead and slept with him once they left Sodom and Gomorrah and went to the land of Gerar. And God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah, and they get out, but in Lot's daughters' minds, they're like, hey, we need to go ahead. Is that the right story? Yes. We need to go ahead and sleep with our drunken father, who's also lost his wife because she turned into a pillar. So we need to go ahead and sleep with him to preserve the lineage. And that is biblically what these people did. Abraham's sister wife, if y'all don't know, Abraham, I think they were related in some type of way, but he claimed that she was not his wife. It was his sister when they went up into Pharaoh, and he thought that they were going to kill him for her because she was so beautiful. That's when he said, oh no, this is my sister. But fascinatingly, his son also did the same thing with his wife, said, no, this is my sister, not my wife. So Butler is interested in that type of sister wife. or she's interested in the sister wife of what's the Bond woman name? Hagar. Hagar. She's interested in the Hagar story of who births Ishmael. And then she's interested in the sons of Adam with the daughters of Eve. So she is still writing about the fringes of Christian of the Bible. She's tapping into that, but to everyone's point, she does have some very interesting interests. I cannot. Oh, that is true. That was after Lot offered them to the mob who wanted to. Yes, 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 yes. Lot says in the story, "Hey, don't take the men, the angels who are in my house. Take my daughters who are virgins. Take them instead. Offered them up to have their bodies taken from them." And yeah. Okay, so let's see where we at with time. All right, so we've spoken at great length about the incest and it's problematic. One thing I do want to think about is the mother. The mother, her grief, her shame, her silence, how those things play out in the mother-daughter interactions and relationships. I do read a lot of African American literature where the mother-daughter relationships are generally strained. And a lot of times it is because the daughters don't know the mother in the way as a woman, but know her as mother, right? And so, in so many ways, the daughter does not get a chance to know her mother as a woman, know her experiences and things like that. And so, I'm very interested in you all how you all read the mother, the nameless mother who's gone on to glory, her experience, her dreams, her hopes, her silence, all of these things, because the uncle father does get a pass in a lot of ways, right? And so, what y'all think?
I
I
think
read
that
the
the uncle father is presenting it as if it was a love story, and it probably was not.
Mm-mm. Say more, because he does get to tell the story.
Right, he's telling the story. So the mother was freaked out about she just couldn't be around the girl, all of this kind of stuff. So she the response that she has to this child is if this child not only was shameful in terms of the incest that happened, but also like just repulsed her. So I think that that was not a love story. I think that he raped his sister, and that was the outcome, dealing with being able to keep the girl around. And they probably thought the best thing was, you're gonna still be in the family, because that's what happens in a lot of black families, is that something shameful happens, we protect the men, and then the
Mm-hmm.
women are the ones that have to deal with whatever happens. Grandma take care of the babies, all the rest of that.
Yes. And but remember in the story, what this is coming out of his mouth, he's the one who says the husband was mad because she was having all these miscarriages and she came over to be consoled and it happened, basically. That is the day that they conceived.
Yeah, okay. I think that I think that
Took
because
advantage.
if she was, this is out of love and this is everything I needed, and whatever, she could have went on with that lie or whatever else. If that's really what that was
Okay.
not. So the fact that she rejected the girl, she straight up rejected her, went on and did other stuff, and there was this pain, guilt. I think the uncle raped her, and she was ashamed of that. And of course, her mother and others were going to protect the uncle. They were not going to protect her.
Hmm. Yeah, I could see that. I
I
could.
actually just okay, like this that's very interesting perspective and I can see that. I actually just like if I took the uncle's story at face value, the way that I interpreted it is that the mom got pregnant, and as soon as she got pregnant, she either had like a terrible pregnancy or had really bad postpartum, or maybe she had a mental condition that she didn't know of, and she knew that she wasn't going to be a fit mother. Now, she took it to the extreme by not taking care of her daughter and kind of keeping her in poverty while she was like out owning properties and stuff. But I can see how you can decide that you're unfit to care for the child, but it especially back then, that not being an acceptable response. It's kind of not even really an acceptable response now, to an extent. Like, how many people do you know was like, oh yeah, like my mom gave me up because she was depressed, or she was this, or she was that, or she could barely take care of herself, and I'm okay with it. That's not really the story of people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if I don't make her, the uncle, daddy, brother, a sexual deviant, I just read the mom as like, okay, the mom thought that she wanted a baby, and then something happened, and she realized that she actually doesn't want to be a baby. Now, do I agree with her choice of just kind of like dumping her kid and living a double life? Not necessarily, but men do it all the time. So, like, and the I'm just saying, and I'm also like, even if even if her mom did take care of her, how do we know that her mom was the best place for her? What was her mom doing to get all that money? We don't know. So I just look at it as like, her mom knew that she wasn't going to be a fit parent. Maybe she had a mental disorder. Maybe postpartum did one in on her, and she was like, I can't do this. And she did the socially unacceptable thing, which was leaving her kid behind.
What? Yeah, I can see that. I can see that too. The mother had mental health issues, perhaps postpartum. I'm thinking back to the narrative where the uncle was saying she did want you. She had a series of miscarriages, so she did want to be a mother. But could it be, and this is just me adding a little flavor to this, she wanted to be a mother, but not with the father, not with her brother, right? So yes, she did want this. She kept trying to get pregnant. She kept miscarrying. She was upset about it. She goes to her confidant, which is her brother. They have the grief is blinding to her. The husband has left her for a child, a woman who's younger, who could bear children that will stay alive, right? So it's all of this shame. Your womb won't keep a baby, keep a hold a baby in. So it's all of this. And of course, from the daughter's perspective, she's saying she didn't want to be a mother. She just wanted to prove that she could have a baby, right? To prove that she was woman enough to do it. I think those are the exact words. But then she has this child, and she still has to deal with the mental anguish or the mental torment that, one, this is my brother's baby. This baby can have deformities because we're close genetically. Two, I have to deal with the shame of actually sleeping with my brother or being assaulted by my brother. And the woman generally always carries the weight and the blame in those ways. Like, what did you do? What did you have on? You know what I'm saying? Those types of things. But I'm also wondering if just the inadequacy, or looking at this child, could she deal with the shame of that event, right? Because the child is a constant reminder of what happened. And now those feelings from the mother are being pushed onto the narrator, right? I don't, since we don't know a lot, I'm just interested in the mother's plight, right? And how y'all were reading her.
I could see that perspective too. I mean, she had an incest baby. Like, there was no, I mean, yeah, I think now that I'm thinking about the story more, the brother said, I would have married her if I
He
could.
loved her. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
But he
I'm not
said,
gonna say that it was or it wasn't love. I'm just gonna say that the lady, she snapped,
but did
whatever it was.
did he say she loved him back? Did he say we loved each other? He did say we were too close, right? We were too
Yeah,
close. So that led me to believe they had some type of tension, chemistry wise, between them, too close, and then one night it goes overboard, or maybe they had done it as children and were more comfortable doing it. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm wondering, because the brother expressed love, I would have married her. If she would have let certain things go on, I would have allowed this, which goes back to Tina's point. It kind of feels a little predatory. He got her in a weak moment.
For me, it feels like he raped her. I'm sorry, I hope they didn't cut me
Yeah,
off.
they're cut
He
you
did.
off.
He did that to her, and then also that he she could not, because one of the things, you guys, she could have gave that baby away. She could have had that baby. She could have put that baby in adoption. She didn't have to have nothing to do with that. She could have done that, but she didn't. And that baby was held, and the baby then was raised by her grandmother, which is a constant reminder of whether or not she committed this, or like whether she was taken advantage of, or whether or not she wanted it. So I do think that there was post trauma there or whatever, but I really think he was. I think he took advantage of her, and the that is constantly in her face, constantly. So if I stay here at this house, this is, I'm going to be reminded of that. And more than likely, she probably was not allowed to give the baby away.
I think one story that is coming to mind, if y'all are ever interested in reading it, is Stigmata by Phyllis Alicia Perry. And it deals with generational silence, but I think that the only reason that it works for that narrative is that the deceased, they come back and tell their story to the granddaughter, right? So they're people are wondering why this person left town and left her baby with the family. Did she abandon her? Why? And we learn why when they begin to inhabit, the spirits of the deceased begin to inhabit the body of the living grandchild, and they begin to tell her what's going on. But the reason why it made me think of that is because in this story, in Stigmata, I think there's 4 women speaking who have already gone on, but they are also inflicting trauma on the protagonist, which is Lizzie, and she ends up in this insane asylum or this mental institution. And we don't know their stories. People have constructed stories around why they did certain things, and they died not telling their stories. And now we have Butler kind of telling the mother's story a little bit, but it's also from the perspective of her what could be her abuser, her brother, her I can only call her a baby daddy, but the father of her child, right? And so some of those things can get skewed. But I'm also interested in the interaction between the uncle, daddy, and the protagonist, because it doesn't seem that he has a real loving relationship with the protagonist, even though he is romanticized. Did y'all pick up that? Like, it just seems like she just liked him because he was nice to her, or he was unclely but doing uncle duties, but when they're conversing, it's not really affectionate or with love and care to me.
It didn't really seem like she was effing with anybody though. I mean, there's only like what 3 characters in the story is him, her, and the other aunt. She wasn't really jonesing with the other aunt either. So I didn't read that as their relationship being frayed in a way. I read that as the main character being in grief and grieving and maybe not really fooling with this side of the family. And now she got to go back and deal with all of her mom's stuff. And she never really knew her mom. So, of course, that's going to put you in a bad mood. Like, she's grieving, and the grief is complicated because not only did her mom die, but I feel like she's also grieving the relationship that they couldn't have or that they never had, and she has to deal with all of her mom's stuff. So that I kind of read it like that. I didn't read it as if like she did or didn't really like the uncle, because at one
No, not
point,
not her liking the uncle. The uncle, how he interacted with her, his interactions, not her.
I mean, he just I I guess I'm just looking at it differently because they just lost someone.
Hmm.
So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, everybody is going to be a little weird because they're grieving.
Okay.
But I could be off.
No, no,
That's just
no.
how I read the story. I'm like, it's a weird time. And I've dealt with having to clean out a dead person's house, it's weird, especially if you're really not, if you wasn't fooling with that person, or you not fooling with the people that's there supposed to be helping you. It could be a complicated feeling. So that's just how I read the story.
Yeah, the reason why I asked this question is because even like when she brings him basically the accusation or the question, basically, are you my father? He doesn't warm up or anything. He's kind of cagey the way that I'm reading. He's cagey. He's ashamed. He's doing all of this stuff, and he doesn't want it to get out. Right? He still wants to protect her. But for me, if my daughter or whatever has found out that I am her father, whatever, I would think I would be a little bit warmer and try to explain the situation a little bit more, be a little more affectionate. Because even when she finds out, he's like, "Are you going back to school?" She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I guess you're gonna need that money then." It was like this to me. It was this snobby, remark that was not filled with care of a grieving daughter, and who's also just found out that her daddy is her uncle is her daddy. What?
What y'all laughing at?
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because you guys like. There's no way he's gonna feel like that or want to like. If you go with my my theory of
Oh
him
yeah.
saying, then no, he's not gonna feel like that. He's gonna feel like like he wasn't even overjoyed that she figured it out. He seemed to be more concerned that she figured it out. He seemed to be more concerned of like the repercussions back to him, and then being able to get rid of her quickly by saying, "Well, you're gonna need this money to go to school." I just didn't see, and he's cold. I mean, I think he allowed himself to get as close to her as he could,
Yeah.
because that, but not too close because he didn't want none of that happening.
Yeah. 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 No, we just dissecting all the characters. Got to be dissected. But I agree with you. I agree with you. So that would
Right.
shatter the romanticization of the relationship, right?
Yes.
Yes, she's always liked him, but now will you like him as father?
I don't think that he really had. Well, okay. I think of him to a certain extent as a deadbeat dad. So, in my mind, like, even though he really couldn't be an active father, in
Mhm.
my mind, he's how, like, she's in her 20s and he never really acted as her father. So, the way that I read the story is that he's going to make sure that she gets that money because it's hers, and he's not really going to fool with her after that.
So it'll be a situation of duty, not necessarily of love and okay. I think they're past the parenting age. You know what I'm saying? So I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just very interested in their interactions post discovery, if we can say that, versus pre-discovery. We don't have a lot of information on how the protagonist felt afterward. But anyway, y'all, we spent a lot of time on Near King. We got to get to speech sounds, if nothing else. What do y'all think about an illness that has swept across the world and has caused people to not be able to communicate across boundaries? Takes different things from different peoples, the things that they value the most. What do we think of speech sounds? I'll tell you what I think while we're
I,
waiting.
I,
Oh, go
I,
ahead.
really, I really like this one.
Okay.
I did. I like this one. I thought it was an interesting concept of like different types of community. Like there was very little correct, like direct communication. Some people could read, some people could not read, could talk and not talk. I mean, it just was. I thought that was really interesting, and the hyper like violence
Hmm. Hmm.
that the government had completely just shut down. So I thought it was quite intriguing. I wish he would have been able to expand on this one. I thought it was a good
Good story.
premise. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, whenever I teach speech sounds, students are kind of like, I don't know what to do with this. But I always think about it as how we already struggle to communicate across boundaries, language boundaries. There's something always lost in translation based between what you said and what the other person heard. And then when I thought about it and taught it at the height of the pandemic, and we're going through an illness, and this illness or this virus is taking different things from different people, right? The pandemic did not take the same thing from everyone. It took something different from everyone. And I was thinking about that, like reading this story and in the middle of a contagion of our own. And now what do we do here? Because this is the first time that a lot of people had to face their mortality. You know what I'm saying? And we realized not the boundaries. We had to come to terms with the limitations of language. People didn't know the language that was being spoken, right? A lot of people could not communicate across those type of aisles. And so now we have a story where literacy has collapsed, or a lot of people have to rely on alternative forms of literacy. The educational system is not going to help you, as we can see with Valerie Ride, the protagonist, right? She was a history teacher, and now she cannot read and write, but she still can talk and communicate. We have Obsidian, who we're assuming was a police officer because he likes to play cops and robbers, but he can read, but he cannot talk. We have other people who can only communicate via gestures. And so we have all of these impairments happening, and we're in a society where everyone is impaired differently. I thought it was a good book. I was going to say book. I thought it was a very fascinating story to think about the collapse of literacy, and our failure to communicate, and what happens when we cannot communicate effectively, right? Generally, people turn to violence. And I think that is a critique on culture. What y'all think?
I agree. Um, I guess it's just my bad thinking, but of course, when I read that story, I was like, "Oh my God, we have another love interest, but it's not really love. It's based off of survival." And then, in true OB fashion, the man was decent and he died. So, or unalived, went away. I don't know what I could say. So, I wish that story was actually a book so we can expand more on the collapse of society and how people were getting by, and like who was on top and who was on the bottom, and like what happened. But as far as like what I took from the story itself, I was like, well, here we go again. Because in OB, in Octavia Butler's literature, if the man is a piece of shit, he gonna live forever, Doro. If he's actually decent, somebody is gonna take him out.
That's true.
Every male protagonist that was like, okay, he's okay, he died. So I'm just like,
You're frustrated.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think that's fair. And Ebony, thanks for the question. She says, like I said, I said we turn to violence when we can't communicate. And Ebony says men turn to violence. So I think that is true. Yes. Thanks for the correction. But then that also makes the world more dangerous. Y'all know what I mean? One of the things I was thinking about when I was reading this is like the effects of social death. Of course, we have people talking about the male loneliness epidemic. I don't buy into that. But that's a very popular topic to talk about, or women, and women's issues with the opposite sex and even with each other. But I'm always thinking about social death, like what things can lead to a mass social death. And I think in this story, she's saying the inability to communicate. And I think that is something that is happening in culture today. The inability to effectively understand and communicate with the opposite sex and with one another is causing a type of social death in ways that I don't think that we were prepared to see it. To deal with, especially when we're thinking about parasocial relationships, as well as just what social media has done to literacy, the ability to communicate and articulate your thoughts over an expansive period of time. And I'm thinking like we're in a world where we are experiencing a very slow social death. Y'all know what I'm saying? Ebony says they aren't lonely. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. But I do think we're going through our own type of social death today.
Yeah, I think that this one was interesting to me just in terms of like how she weaved this story in, and socially I kept thinking, you know, it we are so opposite, and because we're so opposite with the different political ideologies and everything else, it's hard to just be in a space together without it turning into something crazy. I mean, and like she was saying, like it's a small thing. It's just a little bump. It's just like you're standing in my space, or like everything is a challenge in terms of what that was. And yeah, I was so disappointed that he got shot right away. I'm like, dang, he took him out. I was like, why did she take him out? Like, okay, so but then the kids was a whole again another thing.
Yeah, and I think that, yes, to y'all's point, if he is good, he gotta go. If he's bad, he can stay around a little bit and eventually go. But I think I think we're looking at like who actually protects in a world where you're always at odds, or you're in this world that's unsafe. Who are the real protectors? And I I don't want to say who I think it is, but I think that she's also because we are reading race onto these characters just by the very nature that Butler is a black woman, and she historically have written about generally black characters. So we are going to automatically read race onto these characters. But what happens when the world takes the male out of the home? More specifically the black home, right? Who are the protectors? Are the women left vulnerable? And what happens? Because also we have to think about this. They are about to inherit, well, they would have inherited two children, right? Had Obsidian not been unalived. And three of them can speak, Valerie and the two children. He cannot speak. So what type of life would that be for him? Will he integrate into the family unit or the constructed family unit? Will he turn angry as a result of this? Like, I think Butler is trying to get us to think more critically about male female relationships in the world that is hostile. But it is a little challenging. Ebony says it's crazy how she used protection and still ended up with two kids after being with him. Ebony,
That's good. That's real good.
Ebony, cut it out. But to your point, sure. But she also wanted these because you all know she lost her husband, she lost her child. Did she have one or two? I think she had one. She lost her child, so she's looking for a man now, right? Because she's like, I haven't been touched in 3 years, right? So she is lonely, and she's like, yeah, we're gonna do it. We go. She starts to imagine her life with him, and then he goes to be. I was gonna say Captain Save-A-Ho. That's not what he was doing. He goes to protect, and he ends up being unalived, and then therefore she takes out the unaliver, and then she ends up with two children that she inherits, right? But she is the protector in a lot of ways, and a lot of women are protectors in a lot of ways. I don't think this is off brand if we're looking at the black community. I don't think it's off brand at all.
No,
I
I think
mean,
that
I feel like in all of Octavia Butler's stories, the women are the protectors. I mean, look at the parables. Like, it was Lauren that was organizing all those people. It was Lauren telling them what to do. It was Lauren being smart enough to be like, we need a man, we need a gun, we need numbers, we need this, we need that. So it's almost like Octavia Butler's stories are somewhat getting at that, like the men are the destructive ones and the women are like the fixers or the people that kind of hold it together. Like it's men more natural nature to be violent and destructive, and it's women's like more nature to be like nurturing and protecting.
I think that she's writing from what she knows, and so what she can be able to research. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem in her personal life she ever had a healthy relationship, right? She never had a person, or a male person, to be, um, a protector or something else. They were always either like, mentoring her, or rejecting her, or something else, or she never felt desired, or she never felt some of those things.
Yeah.
And so I think it may be impossible for her to be in a scenario where they are just appreciating her for her, without it being something added, without it being mental capacity like Mary, or without it being where she can bite somebody and they instantly fall in love with her. So it just feels like this is what she thinks that could happen for herself.
But didn't you say that her and her mom were like best friends though? You said she got along with her mom, right?
Hmm.
I think it's very interesting that like a lot of her female characters don't have strong relationships with their parents, or they don't have parents, or they don't have moms.
Hmm.
Like Lauren, well, where was Lauren's mom? She was dead or something.
Yeah, she
And
was dead.
then I can't even the two girls in Clay's arc, they didn't have a mom.
Hmm. Hmm.
Somebody else didn't have a mom.
Hmm.
And then we found out in Parable of the Talents that Lauren's daughter actually hated her because Lauren wasn't ever there.
Hmm.
So I'm interested in like what she's getting at there, because it's almost like she's writing against what she knows. If she was raised by a single mother and her mother got along, why is it a reoccurring theme that a lot of her female protagonists either don't have moms or they don't get along with their moms?
I think
So
that's a fair question.
And, and the other thing is that like they don't have moms or they don't get along with their moms, and they're always either looking for or stumbling upon a man that's going to save them in some kind of way.
maybe
And
maybe it's because if she wrote a mom like the one she had, the story wouldn't evolve. So by eliminating the mother's not there to give that. She's looking for someplace that she thinks will not be able to live up to it. So in other words, like, I'm creating drama. I'm creating a drama, creating a fiction or whatever else, because if I had a loving mother, half the stuff that was happening probably would not have happened.
Yeah, and I also think about this in regards to her father dying when she was younger. She can't write about something she doesn't really know about, but she can write against what she knows. You just flip it around. But also, Butler was a researcher, right? And I think that we see in a lot of, I forget this case study. I hope it starts with a B, where they say that if there's a mother and a daughter in a film generally, or in a book, they generally will not get along. And this is something that has been created culturally, and this was a study that was done. I cannot remember what this study is about. However, we also don't see ancestral figures get along with, so when I'm thinking about more specifically is Mary and Anyanwu. They do not get along. Even Anyanwu's daughter, Nuike, when she starts to sleep with Doro, they're not getting along, right? So there's this mother-daughter tension, but it underwrites a lot of books written by Black women, a lot of them. And I don't necessarily know why, but I do know that if we're going to continue to position Butler in the lineage of the Black women writers that she were writing alongside of, it's on track. It's on brand. It's definitely on brand. But to y'all point, I don't know, because she didn't lose her mother until she was older, and she was planning to buy her home. So we do know that. So I don't know, but I do also know that, and this could be where she's writing from. And I'm gonna put this on a Substack post like early on in the course, where Butler was talking about their relationship a little bit and how her mother did not want her to be a writer. She wanted her to be, I think her mother was a washerwoman who would wash white people's clothes, and her mother wanted her to be a secretary. So we can see how far her mother, or how much her mother could imagine success for her daughter. No shade to her mother, right? She's based on the times that they were writing and her mother's experiences. I can see why a secretary, you would want your daughter to aspire to that. However, we can also kind of start to speculate on the tensions that arose as a result of her mother not necessarily believing in the dream and that dream not fully actualizing until long after her mother's death. And so maybe those tensions that Butler may not have expressed to her mother, she's expressing in very visible ways in her texts. We could go that route too. Hey, Shay. But yeah, okay. So we wanted speech sounds to be longer. I'm also thinking about when I'm thinking about literacy, because that is something that is very fascinating to me, and the history of literate communities, especially Black and Brown communities, and how Black and Brown people create meaning that it may be outside of institutional ways of knowing and knowledge. And we do know that this started with the African griots and how we use storytelling to share information, gossip, all that is a form of storytelling that are literate practices, but maybe not categorized as literate practices historically. When we're thinking about white folks and how they have historically put roadblocks in for Black people. I'm thinking about poll taxes, literacy tests, all those things to keep Black and Brown people down. But going back to the text, I'm thinking about this in regard to where is this on a Substack? I'm gonna read the question. It says the danger of language as power is the last question on the Substack if y'all looking at it. It says Rye warns that it is dangerous for others to know that she and the children can still speak. Compare this to the dangers once associated with African Americans learning to read during slavery. And why might verbal literacy be dangerous in this dystopia? And how does Butler weaponize the danger to comment on access, trust, and visibility? So in the text, it's not a crime to read or dangerous to read and write. It's not dangerous for you to have relationships. It's dangerous for you to speak, right? Because speaking is for the privileged in this way. And so I'm interested in how we can compare this to the dangers once associated with African Americans learning to read during enslavement. We know that the saying goes, you give them an inch, they take a mile. And as a result of white Southern planters or in the agrarian South wanting to keep slaves in their place, wanting to keep them ignorant, they kind of outlawed the education of slaves. So can we see this like as a thread evolving in this text? Because I do also think about the ways in which Black folks have been silenced historically, right? From the Reconstruction on up, or from enslavement on up, and still today people are being silenced, votes are being suppressed, all of these things to keep Black voices from expressing themselves or to police them. So I'm very interested and curious if we can see this strand unfolding in this text to be kind of like a contemporary representation of that.
I can definitely see that. Especially, I think that became the most powerful on the bus when she was basically, expressing like, they were standing next to each other, like what happened and not being able to communicate or whatever. That it became very clear, and then also the fact that the being able to speak became of like a currency, or put you at a level that only the like these are the best, like these are the people that are going to survive, because guess what, they can communicate, they can probably get things done quicker, they can talk to each other, whereas the people who could not speak, and I never got the impression that everybody could read and write. So I thought that people could not speak and may not be able to read and write.
Yeah, no, this text says that it affected everyone differently. So she cannot read and write anymore, but that is something that she also privileged in her life. So Butler's commentary was that the illness took away the thing that you privileged the most. So as Valerie being a history teacher, she's educated, right? And generally we understand that when you're educated, you have this this mobility in a lot of ways, but you also have this access. and you have there you get higher up in the hierarchy in a way. So education is a form of mobility for a lot of people. I know it was for me. And so for Butler to snatch that thing away from her, she has literally snatched stability, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
cannot imagine not being able to read. I
and
just,
I thought and I thought that it was very interesting because people could still express themselves. It just wasn't with speech. But I got the impression that everything was so desolate in the world that we were placed in that people didn't have a lot of patience,
Mm-hmm.
because I have been in situations where I wasn't able to speak to anybody around me, but they were patient and gracious enough to for me to gesture or whatever I needed to do so we could get along. So it's I wonder what happened first in this story as far as the like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, did the government go down and then that destroyed education? Or did they destroy education and then the world went down because we weren't able to? Well, it was a disease, but the people weren't able to read, write, or talk. So it's I don't know. It was
Well,
just interesting.
Well, so to your point, right? I think you bring up some great questions. One, Butler is completely dismantling institutional literacy, right? The ways in which we as a society deem people literate is through reading and writing. And as a result, black folks who did not and brown people who did not create meaning in those ways were deemed illiterate historically. And so that is when you get the literacy test. That's when you get all of these roadblocks to basically or these laws to basically keep people out, right? And so if Butler dismantles the very educational system that white supremacy in a lot of ways is built on, now you have to default to other things. I thought was what was interesting is that Valerie, from my perspective, is a black woman who has privileged this thing, and now she's struggling in a world that does not privilege that form of literacy as mobility or that currency, that form of literacy as currency. And so I don't know which one was broken first. Was it the literacy, or they may have broken at the same time, right? Because we've been in this world for a long time. We don't know, man. I don't think we know how many years they've been experiencing this. We do know she's been not touched for 3 years. So maybe this is a three. Oh, maybe it is because I think the children are 3 and 4, right? So 3 or 4 years we've been in this world where people have their ability to communicate has been, their ability to communicate has been snatched from them. And so in my imagination, once the illness happened, the government was dismantled. And of course, as a result of dismantling the government, the educational system was dismantled as well.
I mean, now that we're talking about it more, it's honestly giving crack. Like, you know how the theory is that they put crack in our communities to dismantle them? It's almost as if in this world, they like put this disease in certain places to dismantle them because, like, what are the rich people doing? Or are there no rich people? I wish this story was longer. Like, because I want to know what's going on, because yes, everything could have broke at the same time and now we're all scrambling trying to figure it out. Or it could be, well, the majority of the world got messed up, but we were rich, so we were able to stay away or fight this thing or
Yeah.
buy masks or whatever the
Yeah.
case was.
Yep. And that's what made me talk about COVID at the beginning of the class and how reading that story put things into perspective, because that pandemic, it affected everyone differently. I didn't lose my job, but a lot of people did lose their jobs. You know what I'm saying? So there were more other constraints on my life, but I never had to worry about survival, right? Some people immediately had to worry about survival. Some people immediately had to worry about their health because they were in the vulnerable position in population. So when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, we're all experiencing this one thing, but we're experiencing it so differently that, that we can't really, we're still figuring out the effects of it today. I remember I remember talking to a friend of mine, and he could not understand why people struggled so much to stay in the house. Right, and this was at the beginning of it. They struggled. They wanted to be outside. So I don't get it. And I said, "Well, think about it like this: we're all in jail. Think about if we're all in jail. Y'all know I taught in prison. We're in jail. We're all experiencing jail at the same time. But someone gets sent to the home. You get sent to solitary confinement because you don't have family around. You're living in your house by yourself. Do you want to stay in this house? You're experiencing jail differently because now I'm in solitary and you're in Gen Pop. Gen Pop is general population. Everyone is experiencing this lockdown differently, but we're all still in jail. Those things matter. Where you are in proximity to other people, how you interpret it. Do you have the mental fortitude to deal with the ongoing uncertainty? So many people didn't.
Yeah, and me and my just a side note, me and my boyfriend joke used to joke all the time like, oh, these people are outside all the time, their house must suck. But then we got older and we were like, oh, that that's why these people are outside all the time, is because they don't feel, maybe there's not enough space at home. Maybe they don't feel seen at home. Maybe there's some kind of drama at the home. So they like to be outside more, as opposed to other people is like people, they're like, well, I worked hella hard for this house. I'm gonna be in my house. So yes, that's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah, and I don't, Lizette, I don't know if you asking if I am an introvert or not. I am. I just do extroverted things, but I'm super antisocial. So I struggle staying in the house. It's one thing. I think you know what it is, y'all. I think it's one thing to stay at home because you want to, and then there's another thing when you're forced to stay at home. You know what I'm saying? If something happens in your mind. But my house didn't suck. I just wanted to go outside more because I didn't have any interactions. I didn't have many interactions. And if you're an academic, this is something that my former mentor said. You have to be okay with being alone for long periods of time with your own thoughts. And I realized the more that I was like, I don't know if I'm okay with being alone for long periods of time. Yes, what are you gonna say?
I had that.
And I
See,
was
I
just
had the
saying that,
opposite.
like,
Wait, hold on, guys. Hold on, guys.
Tina first.
Okay, so I had the opposite effect with COVID, is that I realized corporate America was killing me, and because with COVID, I didn't have to deal with the microaggressions or deal with the other kind of stuff, right, that I had to deal with. I was way more happy when, as far as my work life was, because I didn't have to deal with the microaggressions, all the crap stuff that happens in corporate America, and the idea of going into an office now. Oh my God, just anxiety written, because it just, and I started only taking jobs that were remote, because I can I mean, that was a discovery that I found out about myself through COVID, was because I didn't have to go into the office. I couldn't go into the office. Um, it just, and I was always amazed when people were like, "Oh, I just really want to get back into the office." And it's a, I was, as an executive, you were in these executive retreats, and they're all talking about what a wonderful thing it is to have everybody back together. And I'm like, why? Like, but then I realized they were not experiencing microaggression, that white men were missing the adoration and the privilege of their success and being constantly validated in that way, whereas whereas other people, especially black women, were saying they felt more productive, they felt more seen, they were able to get things done without the pressure of everything else. So in this story, I think that could be something, because like when she finally ended up with those kids, she immediately was like, I'm taking them. Like, she was not like, like, maybe she realized maybe she didn't have the lifestyle that she wanted before, but now she has a second chance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because she thought about, okay, I'll leave them. Am I going to leave them? Should I not leave them? And then she heard them speak, and so those maternal instincts did kick in, especially since she lost her child. But to your point, Tina, about the realization about corporate America and the pandemic, I think so many people came to that realization that certain things that we were doing that we normalized were actually diminishing our lives. And as a result, work culture shifted and people were trying to have more, not work life balance, but life work balance, right? Because, you're trying to reprioritize things. And now they're being forced back into it or trying to be forced back into it. And it's not really working like that because it wasn't a healthy system. It's not, right? So thank you for sharing that. Uh, Go ahead, yes.
I just thought about something. It's very interesting that in speech sounds, was it Valerie? Her name was Valerie.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like at the end of speech sound, what jolted Valerie back to life were the idea of raising children. And I know that it was like a little bit more because they could all speak to each other, but we just got off exogenesis, so it made me think like, why does Butler write her characters in a way that, like, if they can't procreate, they're like upset about it or something? Because
That's a big question.
yeah, because that was like one of the main things in the exogenesis series. The humans were pissed off and doing whatever on the earth because they couldn't have kids. Valerie, so then we fast forward, now we in speech sounds. Valerie is about to off herself, but the one thing that gives her a jolt of life are kids.
Well, I think.
And
Go ahead.
I find it hard to leave that story with any kind of hope,
Okay.
because I'm like, I don't know, like, what are you gonna do with the kid? Like, are there more people out? I don't know. It was just too short for me to make up my mind about it. And, and I'm just like, okay, now you have these kids and you're gonna raise them in this messed up world, and then you're gonna die, and then what? Like, I don't really see that as like something to really live for if the world is like that messed up. But I'm also a 30 something childless person for those reasons. Like, I would never bring a child into this world. I'm damn near struggling myself, so why would I bring more life into the world? So it's very interesting that in a lot of Octavia Butler's stories, like, kids are the hope, but there is, but I don't feel like there's any like work or any ideas being presented as to how the world is actually going to improve or
Okay.
get better for said kids.
Yeah. So to your point about the hope that Valerie experiences when she gets the children, I think it's more so she had lost her child, right? So now she has something to mother again, and I don't think that instinct necessarily leaves, or that mothering position necessarily leaves. We see that also with Lilith. This is why she's attached to Nakanja. And even that baby that they put in the room with her, she began to kind of interact in a mothering way. And so I think that the children gave her the hope because they could speak. And so that in a dying world where all the adults are fighting, these things have been snatched away. She hasn't heard real words in a long time or sentences in a long time. She's even silent because it's dangerous to speak, because speech is now privilege. She meets these children who can speak. So now she's like, maybe there is hope. Maybe the world isn't going to hell in a handbasket. Maybe the other people are going to die out, but the children can still, there's still hope for the children, right? When you're going through something, and generally people say you got to find something to live for. You know what I'm saying? As far as the mothers, the people feeling unproductive or unsatisfied if they don't have children, I don't know. Is that what you said, Yash? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I mean, well, that was the story of the humans in exogenesis. Like, and they were mad because they were put back on Earth and they realized they were sterile. So that fueled their anger. Just because they couldn't have kids, that was fueling their anger. So, but I'm just like, kids ain't everything.
Yeah, I think that for Xenogenesis particularly, I think that they just wanted to do it because they were bored. There was nothing else for them to do, and they wanted to have something to care for and look forward to. I think that that was more so out of boredom and not necessarily out of duty. And when it's taken from you, and I've learned this when I was teaching in prison, if it's taken from you, you value it more. There are certain things that my former students who were incarcerated valued because it was stripped from them. And it may not be the same with kids today. I know a lot of people are, refraining from having children because they can't afford them and things like that. And it depends on your socioeconomic background, where you are in life, all the things. So to your point, I totally understand it. But I think that in this story specifically, there was so much loss, and she was starting to get her hope back with Obsidian, and then he's gone, and she's like, dag, like I was just beginning to hope again. And then she has these two children, which she knows she can parent and mother because they can communicate. So now it's like something to be guarded, protected, and it's like a sacred connection in a way. And so I'm not disagreeing with you totally. I just think that, even Butler afterwards says once she got to the end of the story, she had restored hope, right? So the hope is that they're going to be able to build something outside of the destruction that they're living in right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, we just came off Exogenesis, and the Conj said that he put the baby in Lilith in on purpose to make her stay. So Butler is saying something about motherhood, and it's very interesting to like read it, because like she wasn't a mother or an aunt or anything. So it's very interesting.
So when she got on the bus, she was going to Pasadena to be with her family. She was lonely, and I think that she was looking to be relevant because she was by herself. Because they said her husband and her child had died. So now she's got these two children, and I don't know if it was so much about the children because I don't know if it was so much about the children as it was they could speak, because two things happened. Like she went with the dude Obsidian because she wanted to get her son. It's been 3 years. She was trying to get take care of that, and then she had envisioned a life with him. I mean, just that quick. She was envisioning a life with him just that quick, right? Then he was gone. And then there's two kids, and she was struggling with, do I even want these kids? Is like, should I turn around? And then when they spoke, it gave her hope. Like, okay, I can have a different type of life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was about motherhood necessarily, or was it about this provides me an opportunity to seek out what I was looking for, which was family.
I can see that, but then it's always framed around motherhood. Like, why couldn't the two kids be two teenagers? Why couldn't the two kids be a couple?
Well,
Why couldn't, like, the two kids could have been anything, but she made them kids.
Well, I think the kids are also vulnerable too. So you have a vulnerable woman and you have vulnerable children. So you have two vulnerable populations, or people or groups of people, right? And I think that when you're in a dangerous world, you have to figure out, I think what Butler wanted to maybe point out or highlight, how people in vulnerable situations are going to survive and cling to one another. I think teenagers could have still been dangerous for Valerie, right? She may not even taken them with her, but they still could have probably been dangerous. Or she's working out a wound that she didn't get to have kids, right? I don't know. It could be so many things. Tina, you took your mic off mute, and then we're going to wrap up, y'all. I said we was leaving at 7. It's 7:30.
Can we talk about crossover real quick? I was freaked out, y'all. I had to put the book down. I was shaking. I was like, oh my God, she did it with a ghost. Or is she the ghost? And he, oh. Can we talk about that one right quick?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Tina, you got something? Okay. All right, let's get to crossover real quick. This story reminded me, there's a collection of short stories called Let's Play White, I believe. I think the lady, the writer, I think she went to the University of Alabama. Yeah. Let's Play White by Chesia Burke, or maybe she went to Florida. One of my colleague friends was her teacher. And it's a short story where, one of the short stories, there is this hallucination that's going on, and he is talking to a rat. And the rat has all of these human-like characteristics, and he's talking to him, but then he wakes up and realizes that this rat is not really real. And so, do y'all think the man was a hallucination, a drug-induced hallucination, or was he real? In crossover.
I was confused. I wasn't sure. I was like, I'm like, is she just drunk? Because clearly she needed to get that alcohol. She needed to get that. But I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I think he might have been real, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because there was these little clues, right? He appears at a certain time. He has a scar on his face, and then uh, Ebony said she was drinking cut waters. Then the neighbor comes to the door, and she doesn't realize that, or doesn't acknowledge the man in her memory, and so it's all of these in her mind, and there's all of these things that are happening. I think this woman is an overworked woman who has turned to substance and substance abuse. And she's working these dead end jobs. She's working this job that is not really working out for her. And now she has turned to drugs. And she tried to get clean. He was gone, and now 90 days he's back. Yash, what freaked you out about this?
Because I thought that he was real until the end of the story, and then
Wait, you cutting out. You cutting out. You cutting out. Okay, she got bad service. Sundays in South Shore says there was a similarity between Octavia's life and this story. She worked menial jobs while writing. Absolutely. More specifically, she worked factory jobs. Let me see when this was written, because you all know that one of the reasons why Dana worked in a factory in Kindred is because Butler worked in a factory in Kindred. This makes sense. 1971, it was published. So I'm assuming she wrote it a little bit beforehand. And yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yash. Oh, let me bring Yash back up. Okay.
okay, my bad. I had to come back on the Wi-Fi, but it shook me because I thought that he was real until I got to the end of the book, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's hallucinating." But then I was rereading a part of their conversation, and he was in jail. And I'm saying that in quotations, but I'm also thinking like try to interpret it in a not on the earth way. I'm
Oh,
like, are they both dead? He was in purgatory, and that's what the jail was. But then the end kind of like flipped me on my butt because after she left her house, she went to go sleep with the wino. So is she in purgatory? Like, are they both trying to cross over? Are they waiting to cross over? Like, I was getting the vibes that he wasn't the only one that was gone in this story. And that it was giving me purgatory vibes, like even what she was doing, like it felt like she was in purgatory, and she was either like waiting for him to come or something, which is why she couldn't get out of whatever she was out of. But I don't know, it was just a weird little story. It was interesting.
yeah, I think that everyone is in some way in their own personal hell. You know what I mean? And I think what Butler is trying to, this is a story about mental health for sure. And the ways in which people deal or cope with mental health, or just life in general. And in the afterword, she said that, she worked she worked these jobs, and majority of the people were medicated. They were strange, they were weird, they were all these things, and she lived in a constant fear of joining them on medications, right? And so we have this black woman worker who is feeling unfulfilled, who is, I'm assuming, this is me reading this onto her body. She's feeling unfulfilled. She's lonely. She's living in the hood in a way, because there's literally a liquor store right there on the corner where the winos are outside doing all these things. So she's not attractive because of the commentary they make about her face and her body. And so we're looking at all of these factors that could drive someone to be on medication or to drink. And not only is she on medication or dealing with substance abuse or trying to get clean, she's also drinking, right? And so in my mind, she's returned to drinking. And as a result of returning to drinking, her imaginary friend, boyfriend has come back, but he's not imaginary to her. He's real. He's a real person to her because he lives into her subconscious in a way. And now that she's struggling, because he asked, did you throw the pills away? Where the pills at? Where all this stuff at? And he doesn't want to die, and she doesn't want to die. But I think his death is, if you get clean, I'm going to have to go away. I'm going to have to go bye-bye forever because I am only alive because you are abusing pills. And then the neighbor comes over and says, hey, you're lonely, checking on you, whatever the case. But she doesn't acknowledge the man with the scar on the face who was allegedly fighting. Yeah, it's a freaky thing, especially if we're thinking about also like the psychosis that people are experiencing with artificial intelligence these days too. I don't think we're far off from certain realities of this.
I think that the person with the scar on her face was the addiction. So I think that manifested because she was off of it. She tried to kick it out. So like he said in his jail, he went away, right? So now he's back because she's been drinking. But she acknowledges that she's been drinking. So that's why he's there. So I think that he might have been obviously something in her mind, but he represents her addiction.
And what is it alcohol they say is the gateway drug to harder stuff, or is it weed?
It's weed.
Weed, okay.
It is.
I think it's alcohol.
Well, if it's in 71, it's alcohol.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a gateway. So once you do that, then you're going to keep trying to find harder things. And this lady's trying to kick it, but cannot kick it. Therefore, she goes to the wino. Now, you're going to turn to drugs or sex. These are the things that people generally turn to: drinking, hard drugs, or sex, right? To kind of disassociate, to kind of escape your reality, right? And I really appreciated this story because, oh my God, I keep thinking about the short collection of short stories I was just telling y'all about, Let's Play White, because it's a black woman in one of these narratives that has a miscarriage in the bathroom, and she puts the baby in her purse. And she's on a subway in New York. I think it's New York, but she's on this subway, and all she keeps ruminating is, I hope they don't steal my purse. And you don't know she has her baby inside this purse. You don't know she miscarriages, right? But the reader is thinking she's afraid to get mugged. And, you're going through this psychological spiral with this narrator. And, eventually when she's about to get off the bus or off the subway, someone stops her. I think she drops the purse. Someone bumps her. She drops oh man. Y'all, they restricted my live. Am I on here?
Yeah, you still here?
Dang, I got a notification. Oh my God, this is the first time that ever happened. But no, but they just they restricted it, so I don't know if they're going to, once we get off, they're going to take it down, and I can't put the recording up on YouTube. I don't know how it's going to work, or if they're not going to let me go live next week. I don't know.
We were saying unalive too much.
I know. Somebody probably reported us too. But anyway, I figure it out. If not, I'll drop a Zoom link on the Substack because I pay for a lot of seats on Zoom, and we could just be on Zoom and not here. But So what ended up happening,
Oh my god.
I'm just saying. So what ended up happening is that someone bumps her and she drops the purse. And we realized that she had, in fact, miscarried and she didn't want someone to steal the last thing she had, which was her dead baby. And it reminded me this psychological spiral that this protagonist is going through, or we're on this journey with her, reminds me of that story and how some things you cannot articulate. You cannot articulate it, you just have to experience it. Shanandi. And after Shanandi say her part, I'm head on out. Oh, she ain't gonna come up. Oh, okay. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe that was a mistake. Okay. Any closing thoughts, y'all? I just want to, yeah, let's get to the closing thoughts and then I'll remake the announcement that I made earlier. Yes, Tina, y'all got anything? We good?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm just trying to come to terms with you talking about ending this for the rest of my life.
Ah!
What my life is going to be like now that I'm not going to have this. How am I going to survive? What's the world going to come to? I got deep contemplations to kind of go through.
I know, I'm sorry. Shanandi, hey.
Hey, TikTok has been weird. I've been trying to request stuff for like the last 30 minutes.
Oh no.
And yeah, I don't, it's just been weird. And I don't know if like some of my comments, I didn't think they were posted and things like that. So I didn't really, I don't want to come up because I know we're about to close, but I did just want to say thank you so much for an extraordinary, just a few weeks, few months, with this whole series. I really, really appreciate all the time and dedication that you've put into this. And I really enjoyed the classes and I'm going to miss it. And yeah,
Oh, thank
so
you.
thank you. But I did want to ask, what was the name of the book that you
Oh,
mentioned? The
it's a
short
collection of short
stories?
stories called Let's Play White.
Okay, let's play white.
Yeah.
Okay,
Really good,
thank you.
y'all.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I'm gonna miss these Wednesday night classes, but I didn't think I was gonna be able to continue after this book either. But I'm really gonna miss this
Oh,
gathering.
same, y'all. Same, same.
Yeah, I don't know if I made it obvious, but when we started this, I was learning how to become a yoga instructor and I graduated, which was why I wasn't in class like the I think it was Parable of the Talents or something that I missed.
Uh-huh.
So you guys have been with me through my journey of becoming a yoga instructor, and Octavia
Congratulations.
Butler has been with me through the journey, and um I don't know, during my talks, like things from the books and you guys just kept coming up. So I really thank you. I really appreciate you, Dr. Bree. I know I be getting on your nerves, girl, but you my girl. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to you and everybody that contributed to the class. Valerie, me and Valerie be kikiing. So yeah, like you guys, I read all of Octavia Butler's books as I was becoming a yoga instructor. So not only did the text radicalize me just because of what it was, but also what I was going through personally. Um and one thing that really stuck out to me in the parables was that Lauren was like, God is chaos and clay and blah, 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 blah. But the caveat to that was that God is change. But the caveat was that I carry with me is that kindness eases change.
That's
And
good.
and I take that, I hope to, continue to present that in my yoga classes, because just because you could do a headstand today don't mean that you could do a headstand tomorrow. And the big thing in yoga is that you just honor that and breathe and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So I just want to share that, and say thank y'all. I'm actually about to teach a class in 15 minutes.
Okay, girl, get out here.
So yeah,
Okay.
much love.
Well, thank you for saying that, y'all. I really this has been a time, but I do want to just reiterate the announcements that I made at the beginning of the class. We're going to condense the next 2 weeks, so instead of reading the rest of the two short stories and then the essays last, just finish everything in Blood Child and other stories for next week. And so those readings are Positive Obsession, Furious Scribandai, Amnesty, and the Book of Martha. And then we're going to end the class next week. I did see Ebony say, let's keep it going, pick another author. I can't commit to another author. I was saying that earlier. I can't. I wanted to commit. I was trying to figure out how I could make it work. But the next few months are a little tricky for me, and I don't want to leave y'all hanging like that. But if I am, my availability does pick back up or open back up, I'll just, put it on a Substack and we can reconvene. But I'm gonna have to bow out, for right now. But it's been a time. It's been great, and I really appreciate y'all because now reading Butler with y'all, I ain't too sure about her no more. I ain't too sure.
Crazy. She's crazy. And look, I'm from the Bay. So the bookstore that I go to is actually the same bookstore that she used to go to. The old lady that worked at the counter knew her. No, I swear I left a comment on your Substack like a few months ago. The lady because I live in the Bay and I live in the East Bay. So I live one city over from the oldest Black owned bookstore in America, Marcus Books.
Okay.
And I was in there buying Octavia Butler, and the lady was like, "Oh my God, Octavia, I loved her so much." I was like, "Yeah, she's pretty awesome." And she was like, "No, I knew her." And one day she told me that she was writing, and she called me on the phone and she was like, "I'm writing something and it's political." And the lady was like, "Well, everything that you write is political." And she said, Octavia Butler said, "Yeah, but I threw it in the garbage." And even the lady that works at the bookstore said, if I had the money, I would have went down to SoCal and dug up in her trash to save whatever she was writing because she was brilliant. And I'm just like, oh my God. But that aside, my girl just needed to go to the Castro. She needed to go get her queer life.
Awesome.
All right, Shanadi, you got
Good night, my
anything?
love. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was talking to my niece and I didn't realize I was not on mute.
Oh, okay, no
I
problem.
apologize,
No,
but
no, okay.
again, I definitely thank you, and
Of
I'll be here
course.
next week for
Perfect,
the
y'all.
last
Come
class.
on for the last class.
Yes.
So let's just finish out everything that's in Bloodchild and Other Stories. 2 short stories, 2 essays. It won't take you a long time, and we will be back next week. I hope y'all have a good evening, y'all, and I hope y'all had a good Labor Day weekend. I was in Napa, had a great time, and now I'm jet lagged too. So I'll see y'all next week. I'll be back on the Substack tomorrow, and yeah, thanks for rocking tonight. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye bye.